I thought I was 6.5 feet tall here. It's so good to see you all at this special evening of music at Sovereign Grace. We're so glad you have come tonight. This is indeed going to be a special occasion because two musicians who are familiar to most everybody here are going to be performing this evening. Steve Larson, in many ways, are one of our chief musicians at Sovereign Grace, and William Smoke, who has grown up in this church, and we've seen his musical skills ascend through the years, and now he is rivaling Steve in his technical skill, I would say, and they have a special chemistry together. It's been noted by many people in our church that as good as they are apart, there is something about that piano and that violin together that is just extraordinary. And I think many of you know that. That's why you're here. Others will be discovering that perhaps tonight. So we do look forward to a really memorable evening. Speaking of memorable, I don't know about you, but for me, music is often associated with memories. In fact, music helps me remember things. One of my earliest memories was listening to a little phonograph record player in the living room of our home in Greenville, South Carolina, when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, laying on the living room floor with my dad listening to Mahalia Jackson albums as she sang the gospel in her own way. I remember particular football games, singing the Star-Spangled Banner. I remember sitting next to my grandmother in Camden, South Carolina. My grandmother had no musical training, played entirely by ear, but knew every hymn in the hymnal. And we would sit at the piano bench, and she would play, and we would sing together. And then I remember popping in my parents' 8-track tapes right around 1970 or so, listening to Dionne Warwick sing Burt Bacharach's great popular songs that he wrote. These things are anchored in my memory largely because of the music. I'm sure you could say the same thing. I hope tonight is that kind of night for us. I believe it will be, as we hear a combination of spiritual music and other music. I think really, in a sense, all music is spiritual, since every good and perfect gift comes from God. That includes all forms of beautiful art and music. That shy, retiring, meek man, Martin Luther, said, "A person who does not regard music as a marvelous creation of God must be a clodhopper indeed, and does not deserve to be called a human being. He should be permitted to hear nothing but the braying of asses and the grunting of hogs." One of the things that it should indeed make our evening memorable tonight is that the sacred music, the hymn selections that they're going to be playing are actually adaptations of the hymn written for this night. So there's both technical skill and creative skill that have gone into this evening's performance. The Apostle James wrote, "Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing praise." Brothers and sisters, let us give our hearts permission to rejoice in the beauty of music tonight and our special performance as Steve Larson and William Smoke join us. Let's give them a round of applause.
That really is an achievement, isn't it? That was something special. Thank you all for being here tonight. Please enjoy about a 15-minute intermission, and then we're going to come back for the second act. In the second act, we're going to allow a time for y'all to pick whatever songs you want. We ask that you would limit your selections to something from the Trinity hymnal. Looks like that, or a songbook. We're asking not to choose something from the Psalters tonight. We are a psalm, folks, but it just so happens that the music is hard to read. So we'd like to have this be as an enjoyable, oh my, there's a star right there. That, yeah, famous pianist in our midst. Anyway, in the second act, you'll be able to pick out your own hymns, 2 verses, and I'm going to ask, could I ask the lawman, Pastor Ben Thomas, to officiate that part of the sing-along super? All right, y'all. About 15 minutes, back in here, second act. Thank you. Okay, is everybody back yet? Have y'all had a chance to look at the program? Good. Did y'all see that little bit on the back about Will being ripped and handsome? So, I begged him not to say that about himself. But, No, I wrote it. I did.
I had no say in it at all. They said it to me. Like, it's in the program, you can't change it. I was like, oh.
That's it. It's already printed. So in the second half of the program, we're going to let y'all pick your own songs, like I mentioned before the intermission. If you would, please limit your selections to the Trinity hymnal or the songbook. Pick one song, 2 verses. If you don't know which 2 verses you're going to want to sing, that's all right. Ben's going to pick them for you. All right, let's go. Oh, wait a minute. There's one thing. Where is Lynn Mina? I bet she's hiding. Look at her way back in the corner. So many people in this room have asked Will and myself to put together a concert for probably 3 or 4 years. It's really humbling. And we're grateful. Thank you for this. But Lynn Mina has been at our throats like every week. So it's only proper to dedicate this concert to Lynn Mina.
Well, good evening. My name is Ben. I've been asked by Steve to lead this time. We're going to take the next 15 minutes or so to choose some hymns or songs from the songbook. They've been pretty good so far, but now we get to test them and see how good they really are. And also I want to say, if I'm one of the pastors here at Sovereign Grace. If you're not familiar with this church, if you're just visiting for the concert, we're really glad that you're here. Don't be shy. Feel free to raise your hand. I'll call on you as well. Again, if you're able to choose 2 verses of your own, that would be better than me choosing 2 verses. But I will do if you just want the song. So I saw Dean's hand raised first. So why don't you go ahead, Dean, and start us off. So in your red hymnal here, you can find it in the back of the pew in front of you. You said hymn 122. Which verses? 1 and 2. God, all nature sings thy glory. Ask Joshua in the back here. 701 and 1 and 2, 701. So it's towards the back of your hymnal there. Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it. You said verses 1 and 2, the first 2 verses? Okay. Edie, I saw your hand up. 162. Which one? 1 and 5 of hymn number 162 of the Father's Love Begotten. 1 and 5. Beautiful. Martha? 27 in the song. 1 and 4. So the very last one, hymn number 1 and 4. So we've just now multiplied this concert because the guy who opened us up this evening actually wrote this hymn number 27, "O Dear Father, How I've Marveled," verses 1 and 4. Thank you, Dean. That was wonderful. Okay, Ray, did you have one? 86. Number 86. First and last verses of hymn number 86. The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want, verse 1 and verse 5. Catherine? Number 30. 1 and 2 of hymn number 30, Our God, Our Help in Ages Past. Tommy? Hymn number 539, to which tune?
Hey, Tommy, does that versification fit right in with the? Okay, because otherwise I'm going to be flipping back and forth between these pages here. It's going to get messy. All right, so we're singing. Right. Okay, here we go, everybody.
Thanks, Tommy. I told you to test them. Which verses did you say? 1 and 4. Very good, everyone. John? 541 as Appalachian as possible. Which verses would you like? We want 2. 1 and 3. Okay.
Wait for it.
Heidi, yeah.
164 to the tune of 271.
It actually fits, everybody.
This,
2 and 6.
if I may share a brief story, this is my wife, if you don't know. We used to be missionaries in England, and we would sing this hymn, and the first time we sang this hymn, we thought it was to the tune as you see it here in the hymnal, but then everybody started singing it to this other tune, and we were so confused. Now we want to confuse you as well, so
Maybe Heidi should stand next to you and sing.
which verses did you say? 2 and 6 of hymn number 164. You'll catch the tune, don't worry. We'll take.
One.
Okay, we'll take one more. Robert, why don't you go ahead and tell us the last one? Hymn number 599. Which verses would you like?
Do three for sure. 2 and 3.
We're going to do verses 2 and 3 of hymn number 599. This is going to be our last requested hymn.
Give yourself a hand. I'm going to beg your indulgence for a minute because this keyboard is a big old pile of sweat. And I'm about to leave it all on the field, as the old saying goes. So I'm going to play something for you that I used to play as a teenager. Back when I could read and play. And I hope you enjoy it. If you want to see the lyrics to it, if you're not familiar with the song, it is kind of a 70s song, so before y'all's time. It's number 642, I believe, called My Tribute by a friend named Andre Crouch, who I got to share the stage with when I was a boy. I got to play this song with him right after he'd written it in about 1974. He wrote it in 72. He came to our church, and he let me play it with him. And I was just a kid. He was a star back then. Brother Andre died in 2015. But this song kind of reminds me of him, kind of reminds me of glory days. And I might get a little theatrical. One second. It was going to be really pretty. I could hear it in my mind.
It was gonna be gorgeous.
Y'all are going to give us another shot at that.
That didn't even happen. I don't know
All
what's
right,
going
546. It's 546. I'm pretty sure. Is that right, Dean? Sounds the timer sinking. 546. Yeah. Okay, you ready? Let's try it again.
Okay. Thank you all so much for coming. We really do appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure being able to perform here tonight for you guys. I just wanted to give a couple things for you. First of all, I hope you enjoyed the concert. I enjoyed playing it. But this concert ultimately is to the glory of our God, Lord, Savior Jesus Christ. So I want to make sure that He gets all the glory for this, and it's not the work of our own doing, but the gift of God. So I just want to make sure that all the glory goes to Him. Second of all, I would like to recognize someone tonight. This would not be possible without hours of dedication and tedious practice and struggle from my very own dear mother. So, if I could... So, thank you, Mom, for everything that you did and forcing me to practice when I was younger, and everything that you still do for us today. We greatly appreciate it. And lastly, I would like to thank our pianist, Steve Larson. Without him, none of this would be possible. He pretty much orchestrated the entire event, the program, the bios especially. But he arranged all of it, and so thank you, Steve Larson, for making this possible. And there are definitely more cookies out there, so if you get them before I do, feel free to get some. But everybody be safe and have a good rest of your evening.